Hi, this is the fourth in the series of using quizzes to learn basic VBA. And what we're going to do this time is look at a quiz involving forms. Now, as usual, I've started with a blank workbook and I've saved it. So I've done File, Save As, Quiz 4 as an Excel macro enabled workbook. And now we're going to get ahead and write some code. So we got Alt F11. First thing I'm going to do is to insert a module. And the module is going to be called Quiz 4. Sorry, the program is going to be called Quiz 4. And we're going to do our normal thing. So we're going to do first question, second question, and so on. But this time we're going to display it, instead of using the message box, we're going to display it using a form. So I'm going to insert a user form. So this thing is called user form 1. You can see its name at the top. And I can display that to people running the program and show things on it. So this is the list of the things that I can show on it. And what I want to do here is have a big box that just says what is the capital of France. So that's called a label because it doesn't have anything that the user types in. And in there I'm going to say what is the capital of France and whatever. So on user form 1 there's something called label 1. I'm just going to remind myself of that. Make a note of it on paper somewhere. Now label 1 is going to have a question in it, say something like what is the capital of, and so on. So it would look something like that. Now down here on the left hand side, I'll just make this full screen. Down here on the left hand side we can see all of the things that describe this label. Okay, and it's called label 1, and these are called the properties. Label 1 is an object and these are the properties of the object, and one of the properties that we're interested in is called the caption, and a caption currently says what is the capital of. Now the writing is a little bit small, so another property is the font property, and if I click on that, see it gives me more choices down here. So I'm going to make the font a bit bigger, let's say 28 font, and that looks a bit more interesting. But also I'd like the colour to be a bit more interesting as well, so I'm going to go down the properties until I find something called colour, and for colour is a foreground colour. And if I do the drop down on that, this is a list of the normal colours for making a program, and this is a choice of just any colour we like. So let's make it red because it's interesting. So this user form is a thing to show to the user, and what I want to do is to put questions into there one after the other after the other. So I'm going to go to my module, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say user form 1, label 1, caption. So this is the same list of properties that we looked at later. So for the first question, I want the caption to be what is the capital of France. And then I'm going to show the user form. So we're going to say user form 1. Show it, please. So let's do F5 and run that. And you see it's showing user form 1, and the question is currently what is the capital of France. So let's go back to the code again. And then what we're going to do for question 2, so let's call that one comment here. See, this is the first question. And then for question 2, well, it's going to be all the same stuff again, isn't it? So we'll call it second question. And we're going to do user form 1, the label, caption is what is the capital of, and for question 2, we want it to be England. So if I just run that, well, the label has been set to what is the capital of France. And then for the next question, the label has been set to what is the capital of England, and the instruction is to show the user form. So it's pretty straightforward. Set the label on user form to the question that we want, and then show the user form. Set the label on user form to the question that we want, and then show the user form, and so on. Now, we're going to do the checking of whether the answer is right or not on the user form. So we're going to need somewhere to put the answer, and we need to know whether it's right or not. So for the capital of France, my correct answer, which we'll call my correct, should be Paris. And for the second question, my correct answer should be London. So just run the program again. It's going to set the question, show the user form, set the question, show the user form. Set the question, show the user form. Set the question, show the user form. Pretty straightforward. Now, as usual, try all of these things a bit at a time. Don't wait till the end of the video before you try them. Now, we need somewhere for the user to put their answer. So a label is what you put if you just want writing. And a text box is what you put if you want the user to type something in. So we'll put a text box here for the user to type the answer in. And it's called text box 1. So let's go back to the module now and run it. F5, set the question, show the user form, and the user types in Paris. Well, big deal, because there's no checking yet. The next one, now there's a space for them to type in London. Now, box is a bit big, isn't it? So we'll make it a bit smaller when we go back to the user form. So let's make that a little bit smaller, or we could change the font, but I'll just make the box smaller. So we also need something to check the answer. So we're going to put a program linked to the user form. So first of all, we're going to put a command button on. And we'll just say on the command button, press. It's pretty obvious to most people what to do. Okay. Now, when we press, we want to see if the answer typed in there is the same as the correct answer. So I'm going to double click on press, and this is not the module 1, this is a piece of code that goes underneath the button. So the first thing we want to do is to find out what the answer was that the user gave. We've been calling that my answer. And, well, it's what's written in the text box, isn't it? So we get it from the user form, from uniform 1, sorry, text box 1, and the bit that we want from the text box 1 is the value that's been typed into it. So if you type Paris into the text box on the user form, my answer is now whatever you typed. If you typed Avignon, my answer is now Avignon. And, well, we want to see if it's correct or not. We're going to compare my answer with the correct answer. So if my answer, which is where I've written down the answer you typed into the user form, is the same as my correct, which is where I wrote down the correct answer, then message box correct. Or else message box wrong. Okay. And also, we then want to, well, let's do that first. Okay, so if we go back to the module, we're going to first of all put that into the label on the user form. We're going to tell the program that my correct answer is Paris, and then we're going to show the user form. But remember, if you've got two programs talking to each other, they have to state which variables they're sharing. So we'll have to make, we'll have to make my correct as a string. Okay, it's shared between programs, and public means it's shared between programs. So let's do F5 on this. So this is set the label to what is the capital of France. We naturally are going to type in Paris. And then underneath this button is going to be the checking that we typed in as that piece of code. Okay. Oh, it hasn't worked. Remember, when you're doing an if, you have to do an end if. So if I do F5, that'll carry on and say that's correct. So the user form's still showing that, so we'll have to do something about that. So we go straight on to the next one. What is the capital of England? The capital of England is London. And that's the quiz over. So when we press the button, we're happy with that, we put that in there and so on. But then when we're finished, we want to get rid of the user form, and we don't delete it, we just hide it from the user. So let's have a look at module 1. It's going to put the question that we want, and it's going to inform everybody that the correct answer is Paris. Then it's going to show the form. When we get to the form, it'll be displaying the question that we want. There's an area for the user to type their answer in, and when they press on this button, this program here is going to run. It's going to get the answer from the text box on the user form 1, and then it's going to see if that's the same as the correct answer. If it is, it's going to say correct. If it's not, it's going to say wrong. And then when it's finished, it's going to get rid of the user form, and that will pass control back to the program, which will set up the second question. Okay, so let's go back to the module, and let's do F5. The label's been set to the capital of France. There's a text box to put the answer in. When we press, it's going to call that my answer and compare it with the correct answer, and then it's going to give us a right or wrong message, and then hopefully it's going to get rid of the form before the next question. So correct, and so they've closed the form, and then the program immediately opened up the next one. So now we've got that. Oh, but it's still showing Paris. So we change that to London, but it would be better if that was blank, wouldn't it? And that's correct. Okay, so if we go back to the user form, and we double click to get to the code underneath. First of all, we get the answer from whatever you typed in that text box. But when we're finished, we want that text box to be cleared out so it doesn't still have paras in for the next question. So before we go out of it, we're going to say the user form text box 1 value goes back to blank again. And that way it'll appear blank when it comes to the next one. Okay, so let's go run that. So F5 to run it. What is the capital of France? We type in Paris. And we press. Correct. What's the capital of England? Doncaster. So it's best to get the questions wrong every now and then, just so you know the code is working. And that's wrong. Okay. So let's put in a third question. And the third question is going to be what is the capital of Italy? I think the answer is Rome. And you see we can make as many questions as we want like this. And quickly run that. So loads that onto the user form, then hands over the correct answer, then shows the user form. Once the user form is showing, we can type the answer into the text box, and then the code under this will see if that, what's in the text box there, which is my answer, is the same as the correct answer. And then it should say it brings up a new one. With that cleared, England will put London. And press on that, correct. And a capital of Italy, we'll get it right the first time. And press and so on. Okay. Now, I don't like this correct yes and no at the end of each one. I just want to keep the score. So what I'm going to do at the very start is I'm going to say your score, which I'm going to put in my scorecard, is 0. And because I want the form to know that as well, I'm going to say publicly that my score is an integer. So it knows it's expecting a number. Okay. And when we get to the user form, sorry, let's finish the module off first. So there's no other changes in there. And then we'll go to the user form. And if we go to the code behind this, if my answer is correct, then instead of message boxing correct, I'm just going to say my score equals whatever it was before plus 1. And then we don't really need the else. Okay, so because we're not going to do anything if he gets it wrong, so we're just going to have if my score equals correct, then that, and that's the end of the if. There's nothing else to do. So let's just go back to the module. So at the end of the module, we're going to say what the score was. So your score is, and then we'll do and then the variable my score. Okay, so let's do that. F5, what's capital of France? Paris. What's capital of England? Barnsley. What's the capital of Italy? Rome. And so my score is 2. Now, it might be nicer to make another user form and put the score as a box on the user form instead of just using message box. I'll leave you to do that on your own. Okay, so if I just go to Alt F11, back to the program, we'll insert a shape, and we'll call this quiz. We'll call it quiz 4, I think, and we'll make that a little bit bigger, and we'll center it, and then we'll right click on that and assign it to the quiz 4 that we've done. It's capital of France, Paris. Oops. Okay. And I think we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for watching.